roommate's boyfriend started living in our apartment without my permission and without paying rent, while making a list of rules that I had to follow if I wanted him to move in. I, 19F, live with my roommate, let's call her Ashley, 20F, in a small 2-bedroom apartment near our college campus. We've been friends since sophomore year of high school. We weren't super close back then, but we got along well enough that when we both ended up at the same college, splitting rent seemed like a good idea. Our apartment is just a basic 2-bedroom with a shared bathroom, tiny kitchen, and a living room that barely fits our second-hand couch. The walls are thin, the water pressure sucks, and the neighbors above us sound like they're bowling at 2 a.m., but it's affordable and within walking distance to campus, which is all that matters. When we first moved in together about 8 months ago, things were fine. We both had similar schedules, split the chores pretty evenly, and respected each other's space. I'm not saying we were perfect roommates or anything. I sometimes forget to take out the trash when it's my turn, and she leaves her hair all over the shower drain, but we made it work. Then she started dating Jake, 22M. They met at some party, I wasn't there, I had a paper due, and suddenly he was all she could talk about. Jake this, Jake that. Whatever, I was happy for her. I've had my fair share of relationships that didn't work out, so seeing her excited about someone was nice. I remember the first time she brought him over. It was supposed to be our roommate dinner night, but she texted me last minute asking if Jake could join. I said sure, even though I was kind of annoyed that she changed plans without much notice. But I figured I should meet this guy she was so into. Jake showed up wearing this stupid snapback hat indoors, who does that? And brought a 6-pack of some craft beer I'd never heard of. He spent the first 20 minutes explaining why it was superior to mainstream garbage like I was supposed to be impressed. He seemed okay though, just a bit full of himself. He complimented my cookies, which was nice I guess. At first, Jake would come over maybe once or twice a week. They'd watch movies in the living room or cook dinner together. He seemed decent enough, he'd say hi when he saw me and even helped us hang some shelves once when our DIY attempt went horribly wrong. I didn't really get to know him that well since I was usually either studying in my room or at the library, but he seemed fine. Our apartment has pretty thin walls, so I'd sometimes hear them laughing or talking, but it wasn't a big deal. I just turned up my music or put in earbuds. And yeah, sometimes I'd hear other things too, but that's just part of having a roommate in a relationship. We're all adults here. Then things started to change. It was gradual at first, he'd stay overnight more frequently, then his toothbrush appeared in our bathroom, then some of his clothes started taking up space in our tiny shared closet. Before I knew it, he was there nearly every night, using our shower, eating food that I had bought, playing video games loudly in the living room until 3 a.m., and generally acting like he lived there. I started noticing little things going missing too. Like my good phone charger would mysteriously end up in Ashley's room. Or the expensive coffee I splurged on would suddenly be almost empty when I could have sworn I'd only used it a few times. One time, my favorite mug was left in the sink with what looked like dried ramen stuck to the inside. I don't even eat ramen. The worst part? He wasn't contributing a single penny to rent, utilities, or groceries. I tried to be cool about it at first. I get it, relationships are exciting, and it's nice to spend time together. But after about 2 months of this bullshit, I started to get annoyed. Our electricity bill went up, probably because he's constantly charging his gaming equipment, our water bill increased, and our grocery expenses nearly doubled. Those roommate dinner nights? Completely gone. Now it was just me eating microwave meals in my room while they took over the kitchen and living room. I'd come home from a long day of classes, and Jake would be sprawled out on the couch watching sports or playing video games, with his shoes on the coffee table, gross, and empty snack bags scattered around. And half the time, Ashley wasn't even there. She'd be at class or work, and he'd just be hanging out in our apartment like it was his personal man cave. I brought it up to Ashley one morning when Jake wasn't around. I just mentioned that since he was staying over so much, maybe he could chip in for utilities or groceries. She got all defensive and said he was just visiting and that it wasn't a big deal. She said something like, he doesn't even use that much electricity, which was complete BS. I dropped it to avoid an argument, but it kept bothering me. A few weeks later, I tried again. This time, I showed her the utility bills from before Jake started staying over compared to now. There was like a $40 difference in electricity alone. I wasn't trying to be petty, but I'm a broke college student and every dollar counts. She reluctantly agreed that maybe he could contribute a little to utilities, but then never actually followed through. Another month went by, and the situation got worse. Jake was now keeping some of his gaming equipment permanently set up in our living room. He'd have friends over while Ashley was in class, eating our food and making a mess that he never cleaned up. They'd be so loud I couldn't concentrate on my assignments, even with my door closed and music playing. He'd use my expensive shampoo without asking and leave the cap off so it spilled everywhere. I started hiding my good toiletries in my room, which was ridiculous. I shouldn't have to hide my stuff in my own apartment. He even had the audacity to complain about the Wi-Fi speed and suggested we upgrade, as if I'm going to pay more for his gaming habits. Our living room started to look like a frat house. There were always empty pizza boxes and beer cans on the coffee table, controller wires tangled everywhere, and this weird smell that I couldn't quite identify but definitely didn't like. I found myself spending more and more time at the library or at my friend's place just to escape the mess. One time, I came home to find Jake had rearranged our furniture to optimize gaming space. He'd pushed our bookshelf into the corner and moved the couch against the wall. When I asked why he felt entitled to rearrange our apartment without asking, he just shrugged and said, "It looks better this way." Ashley backed him up, saying it opened up the space. I felt like I was living in crazy town. I finally had enough when I came home from a late study session to find Jake and 3 of his friends sprawled across our living room, empty pizza boxes and beer cans everywhere, playing some shooting game at full volume at 1 a.m. Ashley was asleep in her room, completely oblivious. I had an 8 a.m. class the next day and just wanted to sleep. I asked them to please keep it down, and one of Jake's friends had the nerve to say, "Chill out, we're almost done with this round." They barely lowered the volume, and I could hear them making fun of me as I went to my room. I was seething but too tired to argue. The next day, I sat Ashley down and told her straight up that Jake either needed to start paying his share or stop practically living here. I wasn't trying to be a bitch about it, but it wasn't fair that I was essentially subsidizing his lifestyle. I explained that I signed up to live with her, not with her and her boyfriend. I mentioned that he was there even when she wasn't, which made me uncomfortable. She seemed surprised that I was upset, seriously? But eventually apologized and said she'd talk to him about it. She promised they'd be more considerate and that Jake would start chipping in for groceries and utilities. I thought that was the end of it. For a few days, things seemed a bit better. Jake wasn't there every single night, and when he was, they kept the noise down. Ashley even bought toilet paper for once. Wow, amazing. I started to think maybe we'd work things out. Then one evening, I was in the kitchen making a sandwich when Jake walked in. He opened the fridge, grabbed a beer, one of mine, by the way, and leaned against the counter watching me. It was kind of weird, and I was getting uncomfortable with the silence, so I just said something generic like, "How's it going?" That's when he launched into this whole speech about how he was thinking of officially moving in since he was there so much anyway. He said it would be more efficient for everyone. I was caught off guard and just mumbled something non-committal, but inside I was panicking. There was no way I wanted to live with this guy full time. Fast forward to last week. I was getting ready to head out to a late night study group when Jake cornered me in the kitchen. And I mean literally cornered me. He stood between me and the door, arms crossed, looking all serious and shit. At first, I thought maybe Ashley had talked to him and he was going to apologize or offer to pay for something. Boy, was I wrong. He told me he wanted to test me to see if I'd be a good person to live with full time. I was confused and asked what he meant. He said that if I wanted him to pay rent, I had to prove I was roommate material by showing I could handle sharing the space with someone like him. Then this asshole pulled out his phone and showed me an actual list of rules he'd want me to follow if he officially moved in. Some of the highlights: doing my share of the cooking, even though I already make my own meals and he's the one eating our food without contributing, not bringing any guys over, I'm single, but why is that even relevant? Being respectful of his gaming time by keeping the Wi-Fi free during his streams. Cleaning the bathroom weekly, I already do this, not using the living room when he has friends over. Keeping noise down during the day because he sometimes sleeps until noon, while I'm supposed to what, tiptoe around my own apartment? Asking permission before having friends over. Not using the washing machine on weekends because that's when he does his laundry. Getting his approval before buying any new furniture or decor for the common areas. The list went on, each point more ridiculous than the last. He even had the nerve to say I needed to earn his trust after I'd shown hostility toward him. Hostility? You mean asking him to respect my space and pay for what he uses? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This guy, who has been freeloading off us for months, had the audacity to give me rules for my apartment. I laughed in his face and told him there was no way he was moving in. I said if he wanted to live here, he'd need to pay a third of everything, follow our existing apartment rules, and actually clean up after himself for once. He got all red in the face and stormed out. I thought that was it, but oh no, it got worse. The next day, Ashley confronted me. Apparently, Jake had gone to her with some twisted version of our conversation, claiming I had been hostile and unwelcoming when he tried to discuss moving in. She said Jake was just testing the waters and that I should have been more open to the idea. She said they'd been talking about living together for a while now, and since our lease renewal was coming up in a few months, they thought it would be perfect timing. She never once considered that maybe she should have discussed this with me first, her actual roommate who's on the lease. Then came the part that really hurt. She accused me of being jealous because I'm single and suggested I was trying to sabotage their relationship. She said that I've been difficult ever since she started dating Jake and that maybe I had feelings for him or something. Now she's saying if I can't be supportive, then maybe she should get a new roommate, one who respects her relationship. I was completely blindsided. Ashley and I have been friends for years, and suddenly she's taking this guy's side over mine? I tried to explain my perspective again, but she wasn't listening. She was just repeating the same bullshit Jake had probably fed her. The next few days were super awkward. Ashley and I barely spoke, and when Jake was over, he'd give me these smug looks like he'd won something. I started spending even more time away from the apartment, crashing at friends' place or staying late at the library until I knew they'd be asleep. What's even more frustrating is that some of our mutual friends are now involved. Ashley must have been talking to them because a couple of her friends messaged me saying I was being selfish and controlling. One even suggested that I should be grateful that Jake helps out around the apartment sometimes. He hung one shelf, months ago. Another friend tried to convince me that three-way splits on rent are always better, so I should be thanking Jake for offering to move in. Except he wasn't offering to pay a full third, he was expecting a discount since he and Ashley would be sharing a room. So basically, he wanted all the benefits of living here while paying less than me. How is that fair? I've tried talking to other friends about it, but most of them are mutual friends with Ashley, so they're either taking her side or trying to stay neutral. My only friend who I talk to is the only one who fully has my back, and she thinks Jake is a total leech. At least someone sees the situation clearly. I think this is completely insane. So, Ida for refusing to let him move in after his ridiculous test and for wanting him to pay his fair share if he's going to be here all the time? Update 1. Hi everyone, it's been a wild ride since my original post, and I wanted to give an update because a lot has happened. I can't believe this post got so much attention. I was just venting, but I guess a lot of people have dealt with shitty roommate situations. First off, I want to thank everyone who commented. It helped me see things in a completely new light. Honestly, I didn't even realize how much I was being gaslighted by Jake and Ashley until I read some of your insights. I thought they were kinda my friends, but now I see how manipulative and toxic their behavior really is. Some of you suggested I was being too nice, and yeah, looking back, I probably was. I kept making excuses for Ashley because we've been friends for so long, but that doesn't justify how she's been treating me. Maybe I was afraid of confrontation, or maybe I just didn't want to believe that someone I considered a friend could treat me like this. For those asking if I've tried sitting down with both of them to talk, yes, I did try. The day after I posted, I suggested we all have a house meeting to discuss the living situation. Ashley seemed hesitant but agreed. Jake, however, refused to participate, saying it was between the leaseholders and that I was trying to gang up on him or whatever. Real mature. Ashley and I ended up talking alone, and I tried again to explain my concerns. I showed her the utilities bills, the grocery receipts, even photos I'd taken of the messes Jake had left. I thought maybe with concrete evidence, she'd understand where I was coming from. But she just got defensive again, saying I was nickeling and diming their relationship and that I should be more flexible. When I brought up Jake's test and his list of rules, she claimed he was just joking and that I had misinterpreted what he meant. She said he has an unusual sense of humor that takes time to get used to. Except he wasn't laughing when he showed me that list, he was dead serious. Maybe I just hated the thought of not having any friends, but who needs enemies with these kind of friends? NGL, it still breaks my heart to realize this and I cried a lot. But that doesn't change anything, haha. I don't know why I'm saying this, it's just been a really emotional days, please forgive my rant. To answer some questions, yes, we both signed the lease. No, Jake isn't on it. Yes, I've been documenting everything. And no, I haven't been able to talk to the landlord yet because they're notoriously hard to reach. They own like 20 properties and barely respond to maintenance requests, let alone roommate drama. Anyway, things have gotten worse since I posted. Jake has gone full victim mode. He's been telling Ashley's friends that I'm trying to kick him out of his girlfriend's apartment. He's been painting me as some controlling, jealous monster who can't handle his straightforward personality. Meanwhile, Ashley is eating it up and defending him, saying I'm overreacting and causing unnecessary drama. Last weekend was particularly bad. Jake decided to host a small get-together at our apartment without even asking me. I came home from visiting my parents to find about 15 people crammed into our tiny living room, music blasting, alcohol everywhere. It was a complete mess. Someone had spilled red wine on our carpet, there were cigarette butts on our balcony, we're not supposed to smoke there, and the bathroom was disgusting. When I complained to Ashley the next day, she acted like I was being unreasonable for not wanting strangers in our apartment without warning. She said, "It's my place too, and I can have friends over if I want." Except many of these people weren't even her friends, they were Jake's buddies that I'd never met before. I spent 3 hours cleaning up their mess because neither Ashley nor Jake bothered to do it. I even had to use my own money to buy carpet cleaner for the wine stain. When I asked Ashley to reimburse me, she rolled her eyes and said, "It's just a few dollars, why are you being so petty?" The other day, I came home to find Jake sitting on our couch, playing games on our TV, eating food that I'm pretty sure I bought, acting like he owns the place. When I walked in, he barely acknowledged me, just gave this little smirk like he knew he was getting under my skin. I went straight to my room because I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me upset. I've started keeping all my food in my room, which is ridiculous because we don't have a mini fridge, so I can only keep non-perishables. I bought a lockbox for my toiletries and started keeping track of when I use certain items so I can tell if they've been used while I'm gone. I know it sounds paranoid, but I'm tired of my stuff disappearing or being used without permission. What's worse is that I've started noticing just how much control Jake has over Ashley. She's completely bought into his narrative and is now acting like I'm the enemy. For example, she told me last night that my attitude is making it hard for them to feel comfortable in their own home. Their home. This apartment is 50% mine, but suddenly, I'm being treated like an unwelcome guest. It's like she can't make a decision without consulting him first. The other day, I asked if she wanted to grab coffee between classes, something we used to do all the time, and she said she needed to check with Jake to make sure he didn't need the car. Since when does he have a say in her schedule? Since when does he get priority use of her car? I've also noticed that she's been skipping some of her classes to hang out with him, which isn't like her at all. She used to be really focused on her studies. Now she's always saying things like, "It's just one class, it's not a big deal." I'm worried about her, but every time I try to express concern, she accuses me of trying to control her. I've tried reasoning with her, reminding her of how things used to be before Jake was in the picture, but it's like talking to a wall. She just repeats whatever bullshit he's been feeding her. It's honestly sad to see how much she's changed. The Ashley I knew was independent, driven, and wouldn't let anyone walk all over her. Now she's like Jake's personal cheerleader, defending his every action. Some of you suggested that I might be in danger, and while I don't think Jake would ever get physical, I have started taking precautions. I always lock my bedroom door when I'm not home or when I'm sleeping. I've also made copies of all our important documents, lease, utility bills, etc., and stored them at my parents' house, just in case. I'm starting to reach out to my landlord, I pray he responds. Most leases have clauses about long-term guests, and Jake has definitely overstayed his. I'm also going to start looking for a new place to live, just in case things go south. I don't want to leave my apartment, but I also don't want to live with people who clearly don't respect me. I'm also considering whether it's worth talking to Jake's actual roommates. From what I've gathered, he has his own apartment with 2 other guys, but he's barely there anymore. I wonder if they know he's basically moved in with us. Maybe they're even looking for someone to take over his portion of the rent, though I wouldn't wish him as a roommate on anyone. My friend has offered to let me crash at her place if things get really bad, which is a relief. At least I have somewhere to go if the situation becomes unbearable. She also suggested I talk to my academic advisor about the situation, as some colleges have resources for students dealing with housing issues. I might look into that. As for Ashley, I don't know if there's any saving our friendship. I'm heartbroken because I thought she cared about me, but now I realize she's supporting Jake's abusive behavior. I've tried to reach out to some of our other friends to explain my side, but many of them have already formed their opinions based on what Jake and Ashley have told them. A few have started to see through the BS, though. Thank you to everyone who opened my eyes to what was really happening. I'll post another update once I've spoken to my landlord and taken further action. Also, I really want to thank you for just caring and being there. This is what I needed to hear, and you all were honest and fair with me. I am very grateful for the support I got that I couldn't get anywhere else. So thank you. Update 2. Hi everyone. I wanted to come back with a final update now that everything has been resolved. It's been a hectic, but I can finally say that I'm in a much better place, and I'm so grateful to everyone who supported me along the way. So much has happened since my last update, I don't even know where to begin. I guess I should start with the landlord situation, since that's what most people were curious about. After gathering all my evidence, I finally managed to get hold of my landlord. I was super nervous about the call because our landlord isn't exactly the most understanding person, but I knew I had to do something. The day before I called, Jake had taken things to a new level. I found out he had been using my laptop when I wasn't home. I had recently bought it and it had no passwords while I forgot to keep it in my room. I only discovered this because he'd left a browser tab open to his email. When I confronted Ashley about it, she said he needed to submit a job application and his laptop was acting up. She didn't see the problem with letting him use my things without asking. That was the final straw for me. I explained the situation to my landlord as calmly as I could, that my roommate's boyfriend had essentially moved in without permission, wasn't paying any rent or utilities, and was creating a hostile living environment. I made sure to mention that this was a violation of our lease agreement, which specifically states that guests can't stay more than 7 consecutive days without approval. To my surprise, the landlord was actually pretty understanding. Turns out, Jake had violated the guest policy in our lease by staying over so often. The landlord was firm, Jake couldn't stay overnight anymore, and if Ashley wanted to add him to the lease, we'd need to renegotiate everything, including his share of the rent and utilities. Plus, they'd need to run a background check on him and everything, which would take time and cost money. The landlord said they'd send an official notice about the guest policy, so it wouldn't seem like it was coming directly from me. I was relieved because I didn't want to face even more backlash from Ashley and Jake. In the meantime, I talked to my friends about potentially finding a new place together when my lease was up. I figured it would be good to have a backup plan in case things didn't improve. They were both on board, and we even started looking at some 3-bedroom apartments in the area. When the notice arrived a few days later, Ashley was pissed. She stormed into my room, waving the paper around, accusing me of going behind her back and trying to get Jake kicked out. She didn't even consider that maybe she was in the wrong for having someone basically live there rent-free. She accused me of trying to sabotage her relationship and even said I was acting petty. She said things like, "I thought we were friends and I can't believe you would do this to me," completely ignoring the fact that she was the one who had been disrespecting our living arrangement for months. I stayed calm, somehow, and reminded her that the lease is clear about guest policies, and that all I wanted was for Jake to either start contributing financially or stop treating our apartment like his personal crash pad. I told her that she could either follow the rules or find a new place to live with Jake, her choice. She stormed out, and I didn't see her for a couple of days. I think she stayed at Jake's place, which made me wonder why he was always at our apartment if he had his own place, but whatever. During those few days, I took the opportunity to reclaim the common spaces. I deep cleaned the apartment, rearranged the furniture back to how it was before Jake moved everything, and even treated myself to some new throw pillows for the couch. It felt good to make the space mine again, even if it was temporary. I also changed my Wi-Fi password. I'm the one who set it up and pay for it anyway. But then something unexpected happened. When Ashley came back, she seemed different. More subdued. She asked if we could talk, and to my surprise, she apologized. She admitted that she had been blinded by her feelings for Jake and hadn't considered how unfair her actions were. She said she needed to reevaluate things with him and asked for some space to think. I was skeptical at first. This seemed like a sudden change of heart after months of defending Jake. But she seemed genuinely remorseful, so I agreed to give her time to figure things out. Over the next week, Jake stopped coming over. I didn't ask questions, I was just relieved to have my apartment back. Ashley and I were walking on eggshells around each other, but at least the tension had decreased somewhat. I later found out from one of my friends that during those few days Ashley stayed with Jake, she had seen a side of him she hadn't witnessed before. Apparently, he'd gotten angry when she suggested possibly adding him to our lease officially and paying rent. He'd thrown a fit about how he shouldn't have to pay to spend time with his girlfriend and how I was turning her against him. My friend said Ashley was pretty shaken by his reaction. Then, about a week later, Ashley and I had a long, heartfelt conversation. For the first time in months, it felt like I was talking to my old friend again. She told me that after the landlord notice, she and Jake had gotten into a huge argument. Apparently, when she asked him to start contributing financially if he wanted to stay over so often, he completely flipped out. He accused her of choosing me over him and said some really nasty things about both of us. She said that his reaction made her realize that maybe he wasn't the person she thought he was. She started noticing other red flags too, how he would subtly put her down, how he expected her to pay for everything, how he tried to isolate her from her friends. She mentioned that he'd even started checking her phone when she wasn't looking, which was a huge violation of her privacy. One revelation that particularly disturbed her was finding out that Jake had lied about his living situation. He'd told her he was having roommate problems and that's why he spent so much time at our place. But when she went to his apartment to get some space, she discovered that his roommates barely knew him because he was never there. They told her he'd been using our apartment as an excuse to avoid paying his own rent. He was basically pulling the same stunt with them as he was with us. And here's the best part, Ashley broke up with Jake. She realized he was manipulative and toxic, not just to me but to her as well. She thanked me for standing my ground and helping her see the situation clearly. She even apologized for accusing me of being jealous and for letting him use my laptop without permission. Of course, Jake didn't take the breakup well. He's been spreading rumors about Ashley now too, telling people she's mentally unstable and that she led him on. There was one last dramatic episode. Jake showed up at our apartment unannounced, clearly drunk, demanding to see Ashley. She wasn't home, but I was. I refused to let him in and threatened to call police if he didn't leave. He started yelling and banging on the door, attracting the attention of our neighbors. Thankfully, one of them must have called police because they showed up within minutes and escorted Jake away. I filed a report about the incident, just in case. After that, we didn't hear from Jake anymore. Ashley blocked him on everything, and I did the same. I heard from mutual friends that he moved back home with his parents after getting evicted from his own apartment for not paying rent. Can't say I'm surprised. We're still working on rebuilding our friendship, but things feel so much lighter now that he's out of the picture. Our lease is up in a few months, and we're actually talking about renewing it. Ashley has really changed. She's more thoughtful, more respectful of my space, and more like the friend I used to know. She's focusing on her studies again and reconnecting with friends she neglected during her relationship with Jake. To those who suggested I find a new place with different roommates, I appreciate the advice, and I did consider it. My friends and I looked at some apartments, but ultimately, I decided to give my friendship with Ashley another chance. People make mistakes, and she seems genuinely sorry for hers. That said, I haven't canceled my backup plan entirely. If things change again, I know I have options. I know not every story ends this way, but I'm so grateful mine did. Thank you to everyone who encouraged me to stand up for myself. It made all the difference. Without you I would be living in hell now. Cut my toxic parents off after they betrayed me for my golden child brother. But I just discovered my girlfriend has been secretly spying on me for them the whole time. So some backstory, I, 28M, recently quit my job in real estate to start working on my own business. It's always been a dream of mine to build something of my own, and I think that now is the right time to start working toward achieving it. So a couple of months back, I quit my job and I decided that I was going to put all my energy into this. I had enough savings set aside and I had my mind made up. About half a year ago I asked my parents to become investors in the company because I could really do with their help and expertise since my dad comes from a business family and still handles their car dealership business, along with his brother. My mom's their accountant and so, I believed that I could do it with their help. I had this discussion with them at a family dinner, where my younger brother was also present and I think that was my biggest mistake. He's 25 right now and has been working in sales for a couple of years but he's always been very ambitious. A couple of weeks later, he informed us that he was also looking to start a business of his own and he also wanted my parents to invest. I thought he was joking but he wasn't and he had even quit his job and put in his notice because he said that he was serious about this and that I had inspired him to take this on. I was kind of annoyed but I tried not to let it bother me. Because it wasn't as though his decision was going to affect me in any way and I was wrong about that, which I didn't find out about until later. At another dinner a couple of weeks after my brother's announcement, my parents told me that they would only be able to invest in one of us. And if they had to pick someone to bet on, then it would be my brother. Funnily enough, they told me that he also wanted to start working in the real estate business, like I was. Even though he had no knowledge about that field and had never expressed any interest in learning about it, prior to my announcement about wanting to start my own business. I was very upset when my parents told me that they wouldn't be investing in my business and would rather place their bets on my brother instead. I didn't say anything to them for a while and was just trying to process the bad news when my brother decided that he was going to try and console me, but it just turned out to be pretty condescending. He told me that I didn't need to worry and that if I wanted to, then I could join him. Even though it wouldn't be an equal partnership, he just wanted me to have something at the very least. I thought that was a horrible thing to say to me, especially at a moment when I was trying to come to terms with the fact that my parents favored my brother over me. I had always known that, deep down, but it just hurt to realize it all over again and to get to know that what I believed was true. After what my brother said, I lost my cool and got into a really nasty fight with him where I accused him of trying to steal my ideas because he had none of his own. I called him a copycat and told him to go get a personality that didn't revolve around me. I brought up a couple of incidents from the past when we were in school, where he would just constantly try to do everything that I did and try to beat me at my own game or whatever. But would consistently fail and I told him that that's what would happen to him this time as well, so he needed to be prepared for it. My brother also got mad and rightfully so, and told me that it wasn't his fault that our parents preferred him over me because it was very evident why they favored him since he was just better. It was kind of petty and immature and my parents tried to break it up by insisting that they loved both of us equally. But they just believed that my brother had more business acumen, as compared to me, and even suggested that I do join him. As if I actually would. My brother went to business school but I had experience in the real world, and I knew what I was doing. Because I had been a real estate agent, he didn't have any of the experience that I did and did not know what he was talking about. So I couldn't figure out why my parents would just assume that he would be better at this than me, without even giving me a chance. The only possible explanation was that they had a favorite, and it was very obvious to me that they did, but it was not me. My brother was the golden child and there was no running away from it anymore. But after that day, I decided that I was going to have no contact with my family because it was just very insulting to be treated that way, like I was an idiot up to no good. It's been 6 months and I haven't spoken to them. My parents tried to reach out to me a couple of times after I left that day, but when I didn't reply, they stopped trying after a few weeks. I haven't really attended any family events in the past couple of months either, and I have kept to myself, even during the holidays. Because I don't want to run into them anywhere, since I know it'll just be really awkward for all of us. It's best to just avoid all of it. I just haven't been in touch with them in any capacity, and I actually prefer it that way. However, about 2 weeks ago, I found out something that really shocked me. My longtime girlfriend, of almost 3 years now, and I was taking a trip for the weekend. It was supposed to be a short romantic getaway where I was going to propose to her. She decided to take a shower a couple of hours after we reached the place, and while she was in there, I wanted to charge my phone, but I couldn't find my own and figured that I had probably just left it at home. So I decided that I was going to use hers instead. Her phone was on charge, so when I grabbed it, I noticed that she had received several texts from my dad, whose contact she had saved by name. It was unusual because I couldn't imagine any conversations that she would need to have with my parents, especially when I'd gone no contact with them. And even though we have a strict no snooping policy, I broke it for just that once, and I am so glad that I did. I had to guess her password because she had changed it and I didn't know the correct one anymore, but thankfully, I figured it out on the second try. It was her sister's birthday and they're pretty close-knit. And then, I went through the texts and realized that they had been speaking terms for several months now. I realized that most of the things that she would send were pictures of my business plan, a list of investors, locations that I wanted to set up, and just several other business-related documents that were confidential, and my girlfriend was aware of it. I usually work out of our living room and she had easy access to those documents, so I wasn't surprised that she had been able to get her hands on them. But I was shocked to my core that she was sending these things to the last people I would want. I knew for a fact that my father would 100% use this against me to help my brother get ahead of me. I also figured out why my girlfriend was selling me out, because, after everything that she sent him, my dad would specify a certain amount of money and would inform her that it had been sent, and she would confirm that she had received it. So she was selling me out quite in the literal sense of the phrase. And I was disgusted when I realized what was going on, because she was actually spying on me for my parents, in exchange for money. And it wasn't just pictures of documents and paperwork that was integral to the business that I was setting up, but she would also tell him other things about me. Like who from the family I met with, what I told my relatives about them, and worst of all, she would even rat me out whenever I would talk badly about them or my brother, even to her. And she would get paid for all of it. For context, my girlfriend is a freelance writer. She used to have a stable job, but she quit and decided to strike out on her own a couple of months after we started dating, because I had told her that I would support her until she was able to support herself. And that hadn't happened yet, so I was still covering rent for her as she lived with me. I couldn't understand why she needed the money so desperately that she was willing to sell me out and sabotage our relationship. I never asked her to contribute to any expenses and just wordlessly kept working and paying for everything, while she tried to save whatever little that she earned herself. And I had never made her feel bad about it. She didn't ever borrow money from me for her personal expenses, which was great. But that's just about how independent she was, and I would say that I had a huge role to play in her having a home and food to eat every day. I'm not even bragging about it, it's just a fact. So her going out of her way to screw me over for some extra cash was pretty much insane and straight out of a badly made film or something. I was extremely disturbed when I saw that, and within a split second, I made up my mind that I was going to leave that very instant. I hadn't unpacked any of my bags yet, so I grabbed all my stuff and made my way to the parking lot of the hotel as quickly as I could. And once everything was in the car, I started driving back home. I didn't stop for a break or check my phone until I had put considerable distance between me and the hotel, and finally, after almost 2 hours of driving, I stopped at a gas station because I was feeling nauseated and needed a can of soda. It was then that I finally checked my phone, and I had about 10 missed calls and way too many texts from my girlfriend. She was panicking about where I was and kept asking me if something was wrong, and said that she was really worried. She even said that she didn't know what was wrong, but if I was going through something, then I needed to just come back and talk to her and we could sort it all out. So I guess that she hadn't realized that I knew about her spying on me for my parents. I didn't know what to say to her, so I decided to just stop everything, take a break, and think about everything for a while. I was horrified by the fact that my girlfriend of so many years had been spying on me for my parents, and I was feeling everything all at once: betrayed, hurt, angry, and sad. But then I got to thinking and decided that I was not going to let these people get the better of me and run away. I was going to make life hell for them. So I turned back around and started driving back towards the hotel because I had a plan in mind. When I returned to the hotel room, she seemed genuinely happy to see me, but I knew the truth now and had to do my best to pretend that everything was normal. I was repulsed by her, but I still acted as though I was fine and told her that the reason that I had been gone for so long without an explanation was because I was planning something for her. And I'd just freaked out for a bit in the middle of it, so I had to take some time out and calm down. She seemed confused until I went down on one knee and told her that I wasn't freaked out anymore. And that it was the thought of spending the rest of my life with her that really helped me make sense of things, and now, I knew that I was doing the right thing. She was really happy and accepted instantly, which just makes me think about how it's so insane that while she was stabbing me in the back all along, she was still more than happy to get married to me. After that, I told her that I wanted to reconnect with my parents to share this news with them since I'd had enough of our feud. I told her that I didn't want to get married without my family present, and so I thought that it was in all our best interest to just bury the hatchet, just to see how she would react to it. She seemed a little put off by what I said, but recovered within seconds and told me that she believed that it was a great idea and encouraged me to make amends with them as soon as I could. So I texted them right after we got engaged, while she spoke to her family and told them about us. They didn't reply for a day, but on the next day of our getaway, I received a text from my father saying that he was happy that I had chosen to apologize to them and make things right, and that they would love to be a part of my life once again. Once that was done, I started making arrangements for the engagement party right away. I told my girlfriend that I would plan it all myself because I wanted it to be a surprise for her, to make sure that she didn't get in the way of anything. One of my friends is an event planner and I got him involved. I hosted the party at my house and invited everybody that my girlfriend and I knew, including her family and her friends. It was a lot of hard work, but I managed to keep everything a secret from her until the very last moment, and I definitely did take her and my family by surprise. On the day of the party, once all our guests had arrived, I decided to make a speech and toast to our relationship. I thanked her and my family for everything that they did for me at first, and then I went on to the big reveal and told everybody that I knew what they had been up to for the last couple of months. And I made sure to make the speech as humiliating as possible. I called my girlfriend a sellout, and I called my parents even worse names. But I had the best insults reserved for my brother, who I believed was the root cause of all of this. And I told him that even though he had access to all my business ideas now, it was just kind of sad because not even his own parents had any faith in him. And in spite of being the golden child, it really got him nowhere since he still had to rely on me to become successful. All of them were pathetic, and I wanted to make sure that everybody in our lives was aware of it now. The party took place a week after I found out about my girlfriend's little arrangement with my family, so I had sufficient time to set everything up. And also obtained screenshots of my girlfriend's text conversations with my father from her phone, which was easy now that I knew her password, and I just had to sneak into her phone while she was asleep and then delete all the proof. I had booklets made out of those screenshots that I had collected and had them distributed out to each guest individually after the speech, just to prove how spineless and psychotic everybody involved in this was. All our guests were stunned, but nobody was more shocked than my family and my girlfriend. She actually left the room crying and refused to come out until everyone was gone. Everybody pretty much cleared out after the distribution of the booklets, but my family stayed and tried to fight me. I wasn't having any of it, and I told them that if they didn't clear the premises, I would call the cops, and then this would turn uglier than whatever was necessary. So it would be better for them if they left. And then, they went away. They were probably afraid that if this turned even uglier, then it would be hard to save face among their relatives who had heard everything. And this definitely would become the talk of the town in the next couple of days, so they didn't want any more trouble. I didn't hear from my parents after that, but I did have to talk to my girlfriend that very night. She did leave after the party and has moved back in with her parents, but not before she tore into me that night and told me that I was a horrible human being for putting her through that. She told me that the only reason she was doing that was because she needed the money to fund her little sister's education, since she was about to start med school a couple of months after she graduated. Her sister's still in high school, so that checked out. But I asked her why didn't she just ask for the money from me, and she told me that she was too proud to do it, and when my father offered to give her money in exchange for information on my business and other dealings, she didn't think it through and just accepted it. Apparently, my father had told her that he wanted to know about this because he wanted to help me with the business. But since I wouldn't speak to him, he had no other way and had to resort to these tactics. It didn't even occur to her that he might be using all that information to help my brother instead, even though she knew about the problems that we had been having and admitted that she had been very stupid not to think this through. But then she turned it around and told me that while what she had done was horrible, what I did was nothing short of psychotic either. She finally figured out that I'd known about what she was up to right from the day of our proposal itself. And she told me that I should have just broken up with her that day, instead of coming back after driving away just to screw with her and my parents and humiliate them in front of so many people. It was already a given that we were no longer going to be together anymore. But before she left, she told me that she was glad that I'd shown her my true colors because she was about to tell my father that she couldn't spy on me for them anymore and that she was going to call it off after our engagement. And that was the last conversation that we had before she left. Since the night of our engagement party, I haven't spoken to anybody and haven't done anything apart from just going to work and coming back home. I thought that the party and humiliating them would make me feel better about everything. But it really doesn't, and I feel like she did have a point about me coming off worse in this scenario because what I did was actually pretty psychotic and I feel bad about it. So Ida for throwing my girlfriend a party just to humiliate her? Update 1. Hey, Guys, so this is going to be a short update. But it's been 2 weeks since my ex and I broke up, and today, she came back to grab a couple of things that she had left behind. We didn't talk to each other at all, and the whole time, she just pretended that I wasn't even there, which was hurtful. But it was well deserved. She did something incredibly insane and gave me trust issues for life, and I humiliated her in front of all her friends and her parents. So I guess it's fine now because we can just call it even. It's still going to hurt for a while, but I don't think I can do anything to help it now. I don't owe her an apology, that's for sure. So thank you for all the help and advice, you guys. I guess it worked because at least I feel better about myself now. And about my parents, they still haven't talked to me, and I feel like it's for the best. They already have all my business plans and ideas, which sucks, but there's not really much I can do to help the situation now that the damage is already done. The most that I can hope for is that my brother does the decent thing and doesn't utilize any of it, which seems unlikely because he is human garbage. And also, after the way I humiliated him at my party, I don't think he's going to want to hold back. So things are looking pretty bleak for me right now on the business front, at least, but I hope that I get through it somehow. Update 2. Hi, everybody. It's been almost a month since the last update, and I finally embarked on a new business journey today. I know it takes time to set up a new business, but I'm already really excited to finally work and do something that I really enjoy. All the planning and house that I put into this has finally fructified and come to something. And this also means that I have something to take my mind off of my ex. I know that she did me dirty, but that doesn't mean I can't still miss her and the good times that we had. I'm in therapy right now. And I'm trying to work through all the trauma and just process my feelings about everything in general. It's kind of difficult, but now that I have my job to look forward to, I feel like things are going to start looking up for me now. Still no news about my brother or what he is up to, but if I have managed to establish my business before him, then that means that I have a head start and I have to make the most of it. So, my fingers are crossed. Update 3. So, I recently learned that my family is moving away because my brother is going to establish his business in a different state altogether since he doesn't want to be rivals anymore. I heard this right from the source because he told me all about it in a really long email and made sure to mention that he was sorry that I wasn't mentally stable enough to deal with my emotions like any normal, rational adult. And thought that it was okay to throw parties and humiliate people just because I was bad at confrontation and I just wanted to be the center of attention for once, even though I had no qualities that would justify it. But, he wished the best for me and hoped that I would stay away from him and our parents now. It's been almost 3 months since the night of the engagement party, and I think I'm finally beginning to deal with it and process everything a lot better than I was back then. So that's great. I also heard that my girlfriend was finally going out on dates with other people now and was out and about like usual. So I guess everybody's moving on, and so am I. My business is doing alright, and with time, I'll be fine again. Husband cheated on me with a teenager, and now he's deeply depressed because she dumped him after a few months, while he barely reacted when our marriage ended. I, 32F, was married to Cam, 34M, for 6 years and together for 16 years in total, and we also share a daughter, Mia, 4F. A bit of background: I was a som and he worked, but I noticed he was coming home late. He started getting angry a lot, also always on his phone, and to mention I had caught him looking at this girl's Instagram story before, but I didn't think anything of it. Shortly after that I found out he was cheating on me with Sky, now 19F, yeah, barely legal. When I found out, obviously I was hurt, but I was also completely disgusted that he was cheating and willing to ruin our family for her. I became a som when my daughter was born, and we made an agreement that he was in charge of our money and he would just give me his card to use when if I needed to buy anything. I wasn't making any income except for the money I had before having our daughter, which I kept in my bank account, and I saved it for emergencies. I felt stuck because I didn't know what to do, and for my daughter's sake I didn't end up leaving up. I had got suspicious and I went to look for the girl through his followings on Facebook and Instagram. I ended up finding the girl's story. He was looking up Instagram and I just made an assumption that it might have been her, and I shot her a DM. Long story short, she was rude as hell. She had zero remorse and kept on telling me to bother my husband who cheated instead of bothering her. She was aware he had a wife and family but didn't care, and even told me that he was paying her tuition. I ended up getting mad and telling her to stay away from my husband, but she just told me she would keep going and it was just fun. After that I guess she told my husband, and I think he realized that I wasn't leaving. He literally would leave his location on even when he went to her college campus, which really pissed me off because I couldn't see how he was really ruining all we had for some girl who isn't even serious about him and also not even fucking legal to drink yet. Our daughter, Mia, attends ballet and they had a performance. This is what really was my breaking point, because our child should always come first. He was out all night long that Friday, and on Saturday was the recital, and obviously he needed to be there for Mia's first recital. I gave him until 11 p.m. then I finally called him, and guess who picked up the phone? Sky. She told me that he was busy and then hung up, and that was my breaking point. I quickly packed some of mine and Mia's stuff up and I woke her up so we could go to my mom's house, who didn't live far. So we ended up crashing the night there as I didn't want him to come back home to us, nor did I want to see him when I woke up. That was a year ago. Now, we're divorced and I have full custody of Mia while he has visitation rights. I got a job, saved up, and now in an apartment, and while it's not the best, it's good for me and Mia for the time being. Anyways, after the divorce they ended up getting together for a couple of months. While they were together he was visiting Mia, but not as often, I'd say like twice a month. To nobody's surprise she ended up leaving him after a couple of months, but this is where I may be the asshole. Ever since they've broken up he's been depressed. He drinks a lot, he doesn't eat much, he's always sulking on the couch and just not himself. He comes over more often to see Mia, which is why I know this and I feel away. He's all depressed because she left but didn't have this energy when we divorced after being together for 16 years. When we divorced he didn't seem to care at all, he was just nonchalant about it and kept messing around with Sky, but now that this girl you were barely with left you, you're depressed. I know he's going through it, but I can't help but feel a certain way about this. Ida for being upset that my ex-husband didn't take our divorce the way he took his recent breakup. Update 1, April 23, 2025. I'm so overwhelmed right now, I didn't accept this to escalate so quickly, but it did. Firstly, I want to thank everybody who gave me advice, I really appreciate it all. I'm sorry if I took long to reply to comments, I had a busy morning, especially with a 4-year-old who attends preschool and also hates getting up in the morning. A bit of background about their relationship, at least the stuff I know. The divorce happened last year, so at the time Sky was 18. I clarified this in the comments, but I'm gonna say it again. Cam was the one who offered Sky to pay her tuition, and I think he did that to keep her around. After I found out about the divorce he would come home angry. He would call her names and was mad because she was seeing other guys in college and posting herself going to parties. I don't know how long their affair was. All I know is how they met, at least this is what he told me. Cam told me that they met at a club and he thought Sky was older, but then she later told him it was a fake ID. Now I don't believe he thought that one bit. Sky screams teenager, I could tell by just one peek at her Instagram. She looks super young, she dresses like a teenager, she has braces with a very youthful, and she types/acts just like her age. Cam has visitation rights and he comes over to see Mia, which I am gonna make arrangements to change that. When he comes over you could just feel the negative energy coming in with him by his attitude and the way he looks. While Mia is occupied, that's when he vents to me about Sky, which I don't know why the hell he does. I will admit I'm stupid as I don't say anything, I just let him talk. I pretty much ignore him when he's here, like he doesn't exist, while he would just vent randomly. But let me tell you guys what just happened, and I'm literally so pissed. My baby gets out of preschool at 2:30, usually my mom would pick her up, but I got to leave early, and her ballet practice is at 4 p.m. While during the ballet practice you could either leave your kid there or you can stay in the practice with them. One of my closet girlfriend's daughter also attends the class and I needed to get groceries for our meals. So with her permission I left out for a bit. My guess is that Cam gave Sky my number because I genuinely don't see how else she could get it. Anyways, long story short, she has read it and she came across my post and was pissed about it. Guys, no joke, this little girl and her friends was spamming my phone with calls. She would call me and say horrible things, and then next I would get another call from somebody else who would say other stuff. This happened about 7 times. The 2 first times, admittedly I went back and forth, but as it kept going I finally got the hint they were playing with my phone, so I started recording and just let them yell and insult. I knew they were all together because when Sky called first I could hear other girls giggling or saying slick shit in the background. I didn't get the whole thing on recording because it came out of the blue, so I only got the last few. If I was to file a harassment report about this, would it be valid or not? I blocked them and threatened to call the cops the last time and they stopped, but seriously this is childish as f. Edit. Forgot to mention that this isn't real names, it's just close to all of our names and all of our correct ages, so I think that's how she figured it was me. Comments where Op has replied, Commenter 1, file harassment charges absolutely. Also, send all of the information about the affair and all of the recordings of her calls to her mommy and daddy. Oop, one of my girlfriends is super good at finding people through social media, so I'll definitely send her to look for Sky's parents. Commenter 1, if Sky has a FB account, her parents can probably be found on her friends list. Oop, she doesn't, at least I don't think she does. I looked through Cam's following on Instagram and Facebook before the divorce and I only found her on Instagram. Oop, should go to the police for harassment. Oop, def taking her to the police and gonna hopefully try and see if I could find her parents. I'd love to message her that, but she's the type to go back and forth, she literally just hurls insults. As I mentioned, she's 19 and she sure does act like it. Oop, clarifies on custody and the affair. Oop, I have full custody and he has visitation rights. I don't know when the affair started, but all I know is that when I found out, she was 18 and hopefully it didn't start when she was a minor. Update 2, May 7, 2025. Hi everybody, I posted on here 2 weeks ago about my situation with my ex-husband. I also posted about how Sky and her friends called my phone repeatedly. Firstly, I do want to say thank you to everybody who gave me ideas of what to do about the situation, and I especially want to thank the people who messaged me privately to help me get over this. I also unfortunately had pervs in my messages, and no, my daughter doesn't need a stepdad. On to the update, I ended up emailing Sky's school about the harassment. As I mentioned in the first update, Sky has read it, so she took the college she attended out her Instagram bio, which she originally had. Sky, I know you're probably reading this, and unfortunately for you, dumbass, I didn't forget the school you attend. I emailed them about a day after my update along with photos of my call log, and they finally got back to me this past Monday. They didn't exactly tell me what they did, but to summarize it, they basically told me that they would take care of her and thank me for it. Obviously Sky learned her lesson, as she didn't contact me at all. Unfortunately, me or my girlfriend couldn't find her parents. She doesn't have a Facebook, only an Instagram. She doesn't have much photos up, but the one she does up doesn't have anything of her family, just herself. On to my ex. Soon after my post I called him and I set boundaries. I told him if he wanted to see Mia, then it was to be done at his home or anywhere but my house. I told him that when it was time for him to come and get Mia, that I would just walk her to the car and that he has no permission to come inside my home. He didn't take it lightly. He fussed that he was allowed to go into the home that his daughter is in. I told him that there's no need for him to do that, because if he wants to see her and only her, then me bringing her to the car wouldn't be a problem. After a while of fussing, he did accept it eventually. Unfortunately, I was stupid and I decided to try and pry my way into knowing a bit more about their past relationship and the affair. I don't believe that Sky told Cam about the post or anything, as I think he would have been mad or at least brought it up. Cam opened up a little bit and told me a bit more about their whole relationship. He told me that at first him and Sky were originally just hooking up. Before anything happened, Sky let him know that she didn't want a relationship, as she wanted to live the college experience, and Cam didn't take it seriously. Eventually, she started talking to other guys, and he would also see her following go up with other guys in it whenever she said she would go to an event. He tells me that he started paying Sky's because Sky said if he didn't, then she would expose him. I'm not sure what he means by exposed, as he couldn't be talking about expose him to me because he didn't even seem to give a fuck when he got caught. But Sky had told me that he's the one who offered to pay the tuition, so I don't know which one is telling the truth. He told me that he loved Sky but couldn't love her any longer because she was a gold-digging whore, even more confused because Sky literally broke up with him. He also said that Sky didn't listen and that she deserved everything he did to her because there's no reason she should be avoiding him. Mind you, I'm confused as hell. At first it seemed like he was trying to play victim, but immediately got off topic and really was just raging about Sky. I'm baffled because you were literally just crying over this girl? I ended up questioning him because it literally didn't make sense. He ended up yelling at me, telling me to shut the F up and other shit. Eventually, I just hung up the phone because I don't have time for that. Like a child, he blocked me. I ended up just talking to his mom. I asked if during Cam's time if I could just drop Mia off at her house, and if Cam wants to see Mia then he could visit. She's an amazing grandmother, so she accepted. I told her that he blocked me, which she was shocked and told me that she would talk to him about it. But that's the update currently. Hopefully Cam gets help because obviously the nut job needs it. I recently started working out and I even joined a dating app this past Saturday like some people requested I did, and good news. I matched with a ton of people. I will also share that I have been a bit down just thinking about my baby girl. I feel like I did wrong picking Cam as her father. I didn't have a good father growing up, so all I wanted was for my kids to have the dad I never had, and at first Cam was amazing, but now I don't know what's happening. I think it's a midlife crisis maybe? Sorry for this long post. Thank you to everybody who helped me. Next story. Ada for saying my brother shouldn't have brought a random pregnant girl who he calls his GF to my destination wedding, and for refusing to let her be in my wedding photos. I got married last weekend. I'm still so pissed off at what my brother did. He took all of the attention off of me and my husband. Normally, I don't feel the need to be the center of attention, but this was my freaking wedding day. I feel like it's all anyone was talking about during the wedding, and now it's like the main thing any of them even remember from the entire thing. It was a destination wedding within the US, so nothing crazy. We kept the guest list to our families, immediate and extended, as well as closest friends. My parents paid for our immediate family to arrive about 5 days ahead of time. So, it was my parents, my sister, and I initially, and my brother arriving a few days later. We knew my brother was bringing a date. No big deal. He said he was just bringing a girl from school. He didn't even call her his girlfriend officially. My parents showed up at the airport to pick my brother up, and there he was, hand in hand with an obviously pregnant girl that none of us have ever met. My parents were obviously taken aback. My brother greeted them like everything was normal, according to my mom, and my parents didn't really know what to do or say. Then he just said surprise. My poor mom almost fainted and claims my dad yelled out, "WTF have you done?" He introduces us to this girl, but doesn't clarify if she's his girlfriend and doesn't give us much info at all really. It was very weird. It was obvious that she was uncomfortable. She said she wasn't feeling well and needed to go lay down after the flight. So, at dinner it was just our family as she was resting. We were all awkwardly sitting around the table eating dinner, barely saying a word. My mom finally says, "Brother's name, is that your baby?" By then we all assumed it was, but my mom needed confirmation. The lack of any real explanation or details from him up until then was just odd. He admitted it's technically not his baby, but he's in love with her and intends on being a father to the baby anyway. The actual father isn't involved and doesn't want to be, and if they get married then he can adopt the baby so he'll legally be the father. She's living with him and none of us knew this either. He's been her main support person throughout the entire thing. She's 28 weeks, well 29 now since this was over a week ago. I think this was worse than what we had all assumed. So in love with her that he's going to take on the responsibility of her child and marry her, yet we've never even heard of her? He said he has mentioned her quite a few times. Well, maybe he's mentioned her name in passing, not to me, maybe to my parents, but never said she was his girlfriend or pregnant. None of us understand. He's 21, about to graduate college, planning to enter law school next, and he's an attractive guy. Why would he do this? My parents, especially my mom, were stressing out about it all weekend long throughout my entire wedding weekend. It was like my wedding became an afterthought. All my parents could talk about was how to make my brother change his mind about this girl. Then, when the wedding photographer was taking family pictures, he wanted her in them. That was really the breaking point for me. She isn't family. None of us knew about their relationship, and we met her 2 days prior. She shouldn't be in our official family pictures from my wedding. It's like forget the bride and groom, look at random heavily woman hitching herself to my brother. No, I told him no. I refused to let her be in the photos. My mom made me allow her to be in one picture, but said we don't have to buy that one or put it in display anywhere. It just made my blood boil. Anyway, I don't think he should have brought her. There was no reason to bring her to my wedding, especially without warning. I mean, it's all my side of the family could talk about and he was reticent to even correct them about it not being his baby. He said that's because it was awkward for her to have to explain the full scenario to everyone, so he just let people think what they wanted. Because he wouldn't at least say something, everyone was gossiping and wondering about it the whole time. I'm posting this because I'm upset that several friends and even my own mom are telling me I'm overreacting and just need to accept it. When I told a group of my coworkers about it after the fact, they weren't at the wedding. They agreed with me and thought what my brother did was absolutely insane and rude. Update, May 12, 2025. I think I might be about to do what I'm assuming very few people come here to do. I'm sharing an update and want to say that in hindsight I think I was actually the asshole in my situation. I think I was riding high on wedding hormones and center of the universe vibes at the time, but I've slowly come down to earth in the many weeks since I last posted. I let my worry about the gossip about my brother and his girlfriend get in the way of me enjoying my day, and there's no way to go back and change it. I also realized that I should have just agreed to do one photo with his girlfriend included. One photo wouldn't have been important and it didn't have to be considered the official photo of me and my family that I put in my wedding album or hung on the wall. Instead, I chose to be a witch to somebody I was meeting for the first time and we already felt very uncomfortable. For many weeks after I made my first post, I was sure I was not the asshole. He has deflated and I've had a talk with my brother about it. We both came to the conclusion that in our family we didn't really learn how to have difficult conversations about things that we knew might make somebody else uncomfortable, which is why I couldn't calmly voice my feelings to my brother on my wedding day and instead acted like a spoiled child. It's also why instead of having a normal conversation with our parents to let them know that he was dating somebody who was pregnant by somebody else and that he was going to be raising this baby as his own, he panicked and decided to just announce it without actually having to voice it to them at all, and my wedding just so happened to be the first occasion he had to do so. I don't think he mentioned to hurt me. Several people have asked me about an update on my brother and his girlfriend. Well, she's his wife now. They got married. They're still together, living together. We've gotten to know her a little better and she's not as bad as we all wanted to make her out to be. I think she genuinely loves my brother and my brother loves her. She just so happened to be pregnant when they met and they both acknowledge it's a bit unusual. My brother is the type who brings all the stray animals home, so I think we all sort of worried that he just felt bad for her and wanted to help her and protect her, but I think it's more than that. I went to her baby shower. She seems perfectly normal and nice, and really crazy about my brother. The baby was finally born at 41 weeks and of course my brother was there. The baby is several weeks old now. Half the time I forget that the baby isn't actually my brother's baby and isn't actually related to us by blood. After my wedding, my parents started to get more concerned about the whole situation with my brother. My mom became the most judgmental one. My brother talked to our dad and eventually got him to realize that my brother is an adult and he's going to do what he wants to do. Eventually my dad was like, "You're right, and I rather just support you here." My mom couldn't get on board. She wouldn't let herself even give his girlfriend/wife a chance. She convinced herself that my brother was just being manipulated and taken advantage of by this evil woman. She told everyone that too. So things were sort of tense because I felt somewhat in the middle at that point. But now? My mom has been the only person to babysit since the birth. It's like she saw the baby and forgot all about everything and she's all buddy-buddy with his wife now. I'm shocked that this woman has decided to not completely cut my mom out of the baby's life altogether, but perhaps she's a bigger person than all of us.